Farmer Sam was deeply troubled by the sudden vanishing of one of his cows. This had never occurred on his farm before, and the circumstances seemed suspicious. However, with the demands of running his farm, he couldn't spare the time to investigate thoroughly. Little did he know, 8 months later, he would unexpectedly rediscover his cow, and the revelation would leave him regretful. It was an ordinary day at Sam's farm when the phone interrupted his routine. Answering it, he heard his friend Harry's voice on the other end, claiming he had spotted a cow near the forest swamp. Sam, who had lost a cow 8 months prior, eagerly questioned Harry about the cow's description. However, Harry abruptly ended the call, sounding fearful and unwilling to elaborate further. Despite this, Sam knew he had to investigate, so he ventured into the vast forest. As daylight waned and the challenge of the search became apparent, Sam faced a dilemma: continue in the dark or return the next day better prepared. Opting for safety, he chose to return with a plan for the next day. The next morning, after caring for his animals at the farm, Sam went into the woods and started searching again. First, he tried calling Harry, but his friend didn't pick up. He had no idea where to look for his cow, but luck was on his side this time. Shortly after entering the woods, Sam saw something in the distance. There was a piece of land lined with ribbons, and it seemed like animal services had been there. Before he could get closer to see if his cow was around, an animal services employee asked him to keep his distance. But when Sam looked over the shoulder of the employee, he saw his cow. He would recognize her head anywhere. Sam had to find a way to get closer and see what was happening. When he asked the employee, he said something important was going on but didn't give any details and asked Sam to leave. Fortunately, the woods were quite large and the animal services employees were staying on one side of the tape. Sam was able to find another route and get to his cow. He didn't know if it was legal or not, but he was more than willing to take the risk. As Sam made a detour to get his cow, his thoughts turned to Harry. How did Harry know this was happening? Why was he so anxious on the phone? Why didn't he mention that animal services were involved? Harry was his friend after all, so there was something else going on here. Finally, Sam's detour was worth the effort because he reached a point in the woods where he could see his cow from a distance. He approached from a different angle, thinking he could do so without being noticed by animal services. However, things were about to take a turn. As Sam got closer, he realized that his cow was acting out of character. When Sam saw his cow after 8 months, he gasped. She didn't look like herself anymore and was in terrible condition. Sam was a very experienced farmer, so he had seen a lot of things over the years, but nothing like this. It was clear that the cow had been through something traumatic. There was no time to waste. Sam had to get her to safety as soon as possible. But something was wrong. The cow behaved in a very unnatural way. She looked frightened, as if she no longer recognized Sam. As he was thinking all this, one of the animal services employees spotted him and yelled at the others to stop him. Fortunately, the animal control officers were unable to arrest him. Technically, he wasn't breaking any laws. He didn't have to do what they said because it was his cow, and they were in the woods, so he wasn't trespassing on anyone's land. However, he didn't want to risk it, so he decided to cooperate. Maybe that was the best way to get his cow back. He had to work with these guys instead of against them, so he started with a sincere apology for sneaking in to reach his cow. The animal services employees told Sam that they had been instructed not to let anyone near the cow until further notice. Now that they knew Sam was the cow's owner, they realized maybe he could help them. But before we continue, don't forget to give this video a like to help it reach 10K and subscribe to the channel for more videos. As it turns out, they had found the cow only a couple of days earlier. A hiker had seen the animal and called them as soon as he noticed its condition. They had no way of knowing how long it had been there already, but they figured it must have been a while. Sam still had no idea why his cow had been there for so long and almost begged the animal service workers to tell him. They looked at each other for a brief moment, as if hesitant to share what they knew, but in the end they decided to help him. It was clear that Sam cared about his cow and just wanted answers after 8 months in the dark. According to the animal services employees, the cow was in the woods of its own free will. It wasn't alone in the forest and didn't want to leave. It seemed that the cow had found something and didn't want anyone to come near it. Sam was very confused by this and needed to know what his cow had been protecting all this time. However, the animal services employees wouldn't tell him anything more. The information had to be kept out of the public eye. But that was his cow, and Sam had a way to prove it. The animal was tagged and numbered, and he had the necessary documentation to show that it was his cow. It would only be a matter of time to present the information to the court, and he was sure they would rule in his favor. This meant that the animal services employees were denying him access to his property, which is against the law. Sam started to explain all of this to them, and then they realized that there was nothing they could do. He was finally allowed to approach the cow, and once again, Sam noted the cow's strange behavior. He could see fear and anger in her face. It was clear that the cow didn't recognize him immediately. To be fair, it had been 8 months since they had seen each other, so that made sense. But Sam didn't anticipate what the cow would do next. From one moment to the next, the cow charged at Sam, and he stumbled back a couple of steps. Then the animal's behavior seemed to change, and it looked like she was calming down. It seemed like the cow finally recognized Sam. So he tried again and got closer to her. This time the cow greeted him. The entire time, the animal services employees were watching from a distance, and they couldn't believe that the cow was letting Sam get close. When Sam was finally close enough to see what the cow had been protecting this entire time, everything made sense. Under the cow, there was a small wolf cub drinking milk from her. Sam knew that wolves were a protected species in the area, so it was rare to see them around farms where they would be at risk. Most farmers, himself included, didn't want wolves around because they tended to kill livestock. Before the cow went missing, she had lost one of her calves. It's possible that the cow saw the wolf cub and it registered as a substitute for the calf she lost. Now that the wolf had reached maturity, animal services deemed it necessary to intervene. However, the cow vehemently resisted separation from the cub, displaying aggression towards everyone except Sam. With patience and Sam's assistance, they successfully retrieved the wolf cub without upsetting the cow. The cub was then relocated to a protected environmental habitat for monitoring before being reintroduced into the wild. Once in its natural environment, the wolf would no longer pose a threat to farmers protecting their livestock. Meanwhile, Sam joyfully reunited with his cow and nursed her back to health. I hope you liked this video. Please give it a thumbs up and share it with your loved ones. Also subscribe and press the bell icon to never miss the update from our channel. Thank you.